Okay, so this is the name that I go by, which is Nesut Biti. That's the way it's pronounced, Nesut Biti. It means of the sedge and the bee. Okay, let's write some things here. Okay. Now, in English, we say Pharaoh, but in ancient Egypt, they would refer to the Pharaoh as Nesut Biti. Okay. Sut, this part here, means sedge, and the J's back then, because they didn't write with vowels. Egyptians didn't have vowels. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the syntax of hieroglyphics here in a second. But BT was the word that they used for bee, right? And I believe it would have been like this, right? Something like this. And then let's see, like this, right? It's probably something like how they would have wrote it, right? The sedge, a sedge is a plant that grew by the Nile, and one of the most popular sedges that they had was called the papyrus. Papyrus. This is where paper comes from. This is one of the original forms of paper. They used the sedge, they broke it down, and they made paper. It was associated with intellect. Okay. The sedge was the symbol of Upper Egypt. There's two parts to Egypt. There's an Upper Egypt and there's a Lower Egypt. So the sedge was the symbol of Upper Egypt, right? And also the bee represented honey. Egyptians were honey farmers. They had a large, vast population of honey farmers, and that was one of their main import or exports, rather. The bee was also the symbol of Lower Egypt, just like the eagle is the symbol of America, right? So the bee was the symbol of Lower Egypt and also the lower self. Now let's talk about why they are the symbols of the higher and lower self, right? So this is called the praenomen for the pharaoh. The pharaoh had 5 royal names. This is the one that was most commonly used. Nesut Biti was his throne name. So they would say like Nesut Biti Tutankhamun. So Pharaoh Tut, you know. So this means of the sedge and the bee, the master of Upper and Lower Egypt, but also the master of the upper and lower self. That means the Pharaoh was the one who had mastered his upper and lower self, right? The papyrus, which was the first form of paper, very few people knew how to write. It was a symbol of intellect, right? The upper self is associated with the heart, the mind, and the voice. Intellect, you know, matters of the heart, matters of the voice, using your words wisely. When you're able to control your speech, you're able to control your thoughts, right? Control your emotions, right? That was the sedge. The bee, which was associated with honey, was associated with power, sex, and the gut, food, like your urges, right? So when you master your sexual desires, you master your desire to consume, and you also master power, because the biggest muscles in your body are your maximus gluteus. That's the largest muscle in your body, which is your legs. That gives you your power. So that's the lower self. So the Pharaoh was thought to have mastered his upper and lower natures, right? And so that's why I like to go by Nesut Biti, because you know, I'm on the pathway of mastering my upper and lower natures. You know, I really integrate things that, you know, I believe that are for my betterment. But this is how they would draw it. It's the symbol for a sedge and then the B here. Okay, Nesut Biti. Okay, and now we're going to talk about, get into a little bit of hieroglyphic grammar and talk about, you know, why was it you got these 4 letters here, but you only got 2 symbols to write that? Like, why is that the case? Okay. So that is my name. And also, you may see, so hieroglyphics, again, they didn't have vowels. So a lot of times to fill the spaces in between, they would write an E unless they already knew the pronunciation. But you also may see this written out like this. Sometimes I spell it like this. Or they might write it like this. Okay? Because sometimes they said that Egyptians didn't really pronounce the T at the end of words, right? But I use it, sometimes I just write it like that, or I might write it this way. I like to pronounce the T because I like the in means of, right? And then the sedge, and then the B. So that's the in denotes of, so the master of, the sedge, and the B, right? But I like to use suit because the name of the podcast that I shoot for is called Follow Suit, you know, Follow Suit. So it's a play on words and whatnot. So you would see different people writing in different ways whenever it's translated into English.